The velvet box made a soft sound as it slid across the white tablecloth, stopping inches from Emma's trembling hands. She looked up through tear-blurred eyes at the man sitting across from her, a stranger 20 minutes ago, and for the first time in 3 years, she remembered what hope felt like. Emma Chen had almost cancelled. She'd stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror that evening, mascara wand hovering midair, and wondered what she was doing. 32 years old, a kindergarten teacher with a studio apartment and a rescue cat named Buttons, agreeing to a blind date set up by her well-meaning but relentless sister, Michelle. The last one had been a disaster. The guy spent 2 hours talking about his cryptocurrency portfolio before asking if she'd invest. Before that, there was the man who brought his mother. Actually brought his mother to a date. This is the last one, Emma had told her reflection firmly. The absolute last one, but Michelle had been insistent. He's different, Em, I promise. Just meet him for coffee. 1 hour. If it's awful, I'll never set you up again. That's how Emma found herself at Marcello's, an upscale Italian restaurant that made her instantly regret her choice of a simple blue dress. The hostess had led her to a corner table where a man sat, his back to her, broad shoulders evident even beneath his perfectly tailored suit. When he turned around, Emma's breath caught, not because he was handsome, though he was, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples and warm brown eyes, but because of the raw exhaustion etched into his face. Emma. He stood quickly, nearly knocking over his water glass. I'm Daniel. Daniel Reeves. Sorry, he laughed nervously. I'm incredibly bad at this. Something about his awkwardness put her at ease. Well, that makes 2 of us. The first 10 minutes had been surprisingly comfortable. Daniel was a widower, he told her, raising his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, alone for the past 2 years. He ran a tech company, something about software solutions for hospitals, but the way he talked about it was refreshingly modest. No bragging, no name dropping. Mostly, he talked about Lily. How she'd recently lost her first tooth. How she insisted on wearing her tutu to the grocery store. How she asked questions about her mother that he never quite knew how to answer. Emma had just started to relax, to think maybe Michelle had finally gotten it right, when her phone buzzed. Then buzzed again, and again. I'm so sorry, she said, glancing at the screen. Her stomach dropped. 7 missed calls from her landlord. 3 text messages, each more urgent than the last. Emma, call me now. There's been a fire. Everyone's safe but you need to come home. The phone slipped from her hands, clattering onto the table. Daniel was talking, asking if she was okay, but his voice sounded distant, underwater. A fire. Her apartment. Everything she owned. The photo albums from her childhood. Her grandmother's quilt. Buttons. My cat, she whispered, and then she was crying, really crying, not the delicate tears that could be dabbed away with a napkin but the ugly, desperate kind that came from somewhere deep and primal. I have to go. I'm sorry. I have to. She was already standing, grabbing her purse with shaking hands, when Daniel stood too. Let me drive you. No, I can't, you don't have to. Please. His voice was gentle but firm. You're in no state to drive. The ride to her apartment building was a blur. Daniel drove in focused silence while Emma called her landlord, her sister, the building manager. The news was devastating but could have been worse. The fire had started in the unit below hers. The sprinkler system had activated quickly, containing the blaze. But her apartment had sustained significant water damage. Everything was soaked. She'd need to find somewhere else to stay while they assessed the damage and made repairs. It could be weeks. Maybe months. And Buttons? She'd asked, her voice breaking. The firefighters found him, the building manager said. He's at the emergency vet on Maple Street. Probably just smoke inhalation, but they wanted to check him out. When they arrived at the building, Emma just sat in the car, staring at the red trucks still parked outside, at the residents gathered on the sidewalk wrapped in blankets, at the life she'd built literally going up in smoke. Daniel didn't say anything. He just waited. I don't know what to do, she finally said. I don't have renter's insurance. I kept meaning to get it, but I was always so careful, and I thought, she laughed bitterly. I thought I had time. Where will you stay? Michelle's couch, I guess. She has a 1-bedroom, but she'll make room. She always does. Emma wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. This is not how blind dates are supposed to go. You should probably run while you can. Daniel turned to face her fully. In the dim light of the car, his expression was serious, thoughtful. My house has 4 bedrooms, he said quietly. Lily and I use 2. There's a guest room that's just sitting empty. It has its own bathroom. You could stay there. Just until you figure things out. Emma stared at him. I can't, I just met you 20 minutes ago. I know how it sounds. But I'm not. He ran a hand through his hair, choosing his words carefully. When Sarah died, Lily and I were drowning. My mother-in-law moved in with us for 6 months. She didn't have to. We barely knew each other before Sarah. But she showed up anyway, and she saved us. She taught me that sometimes strangers become family by choosing to show up when it matters. He met Emma's eyes. Let me show up for you. No strings. No expectations. Just a place to sleep and regroup. Why would you do that? You don't know me. Maybe that's exactly why, he said softly. Because kindness shouldn't require a resume. Emma wanted to say no. Every practical bone in her body was screaming that you don't move in with a man you met on a blind date. But when she thought about sleeping on Michelle's lumpy couch, about imposing on her sister who'd already done so much, about starting over with nothing, she found herself nodding. Just for a few days, she said. Until I figure something out. That had been 3 months ago. Now, sitting in the same restaurant where they'd first met, Emma watched Daniel push the velvet box toward her. They'd agreed to return here tonight, to have the dinner they'd never gotten to finish. So much had changed. Lily had taken to Emma immediately, dragging her to tea parties and fashion shows. Emma had helped with homework and bedtime stories while Daniel worked late. She'd cooked dinners. He'd helped her file insurance claims and hunt for a new apartment, though neither of them seemed to look very hard. Somewhere between the breakfast routines and the Saturday morning cartoons, between teaching Lily how to braid hair and Daniel teaching her how to code, Emma had fallen in love. Not with the idea of being saved, but with the man who'd shown her that being vulnerable wasn't weakness, that accepting help wasn't failure, that family wasn't always about blood. I'm not good at speeches, Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. But you walked into my life on what should have been the worst night of yours, and somehow, you made everything better. Not just for me, but for Lily. She loves you. I love you. And I know it's fast, and I know it's unconventional, but when you know, you know. Inside the box was a ring, simple, elegant. With a single diamond that caught the light. Emma Chen, will you marry me? She was crying again, but this time they were different tears. Tears of joy, of disbelief, of gratitude for the fire that had destroyed her possessions but led her home. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. As Daniel slid the ring onto her finger, Emma thought about all the things she'd lost that night, her furniture, her clothes, her sense of security. But she'd gained so much more. She'd learned that sometimes the worst moments create space for the best ones. That kindness from strangers can heal wounds you didn't know you had. That home isn't a place but a feeling, built one small gesture at a time. The restaurant erupted in applause. Apparently, Daniel had tipped off the staff, and Emma laughed through her tears, holding tight to the hand of the man who'd taught her that sometimes, love doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it slides a ring across a table and asks you to be brave enough to say yes.